Alright, so I think in general the opening was actually pretty good in this game when I first looked at it. So we got to attack our opponents. Here's probably the first questionable move I say for white, just because we want to play something here. If our opponent now plays here, we have the ability to play a base. If you really are trying to attack these stones, then your best move is probably this one. Just because if they crawl or jump, you can do the same, and you can enlarge in the right side. At most, maybe you can play something like this and force your opponent to come out. But when you play here and then you attack your opponent, what you do is you limit your ability to make a base. Because generally, when your opponent pincers you, you would want to play something here. Sorry, I meant that for a white stone. White should want to play here, but this is too close.
You're
And so
slightly
we're attacking.
over-concentrated.
Yeah, it's definitely over concentrated. So our opponent was able to peep. I think even here you can play here. If your opponent comes out, then now you jump. So if they do this, they're at risk of losing a stone, and they're weakening the group here. They also have what I would call bad shape, because right now this A stone here is almost breaking the tiger's mouth shape. Okay, so we came out. I don't see why we couldn't just play something like this. Jump, and if they play here, we can attach, and then our group is fine. They have a weakness here, and we have the ability to connect underneath. They also have this A group here that can lose potential 2 eyes. So, for example, black defends, we can play here, and if they answer, you can go ahead and attack the group. I don't think it's killable, but it's definitely painful to live. All right, so we kind of defended loosely here. We don't give our opponent bad shape at all. Our opponent gets the first move on the board. Oh, I see this a lot. Does someone teach the league members to connect like this? That's 2 in 1 game. It's gonna sound absurd. Whoops, wrong key. It's gonna sound absurd, but on the second line, or the second and third line, connecting stones that aren't being peeped are probably not as strong as being able to play 2 tiger's mouths. Even though your opponent could, say, for example, peep here, you can still push up. And the most that they can do is Atari and peep. And it just reverts back to a Joseki. But, if your opponent plays like this, you have no reason to not Hane now. But when it's like this, I'm a little worried because now when our opponent attacks, white's not going to respond in the corner if you play here. And when you attack, white's going to be able to get the first move on the side, and you're reducing. So the thickness of these 4 stones here are questionable. All right, so we answered here. We can always play the C8 move later. That's fine. Okay, yeah. The other thing is, even here, this is still the stronger move, just because when your opponent plays here, we don't have to answer. Now, if we play here and we answer, it feels pretty bad. But we also have weaknesses on these 4 points. Even like a peep at here, or not a peep, but a shoulder hit to force us to connect is beneficial for white. Oh, okay. So here's probably the first real mistake of the game. Generally, as black, when your opponent plays in the middle of 2 4/4 stones like this, you don't want to attach. You can kick and then come out. That'd be like white responding that'd be like white playing like this, and then you're coming out. If you're worried about the corner, you can also play here. force your opponent to come out in the center. But generally it just reverts. And if your opponent just comes out, then this is perfectly fine for you. If you're black, you can just connect and make points on the left. If your opponent answers, you can definitely attack your opponent, even if they do have the ability to make some sort of base. But at most, it's going to be one eye. They still need to be able to come out. So another move you can play is probably just jump. You don't actually have to add a move by kicking. You can also come down. So your opponent has to make a choice of coming out, and if they come out, you can attach underneath, or if they attach to separate, then they're only making a weak group for themselves.
Yeah, the move that fixes the 3/3 invasion seems the good one in this one.
Well, you don't know if your opponent's going to respond to this like this. They could also play other things. But if you play here, this I think does fix most of the 3/3 potential. For example, you can fight this, or if your opponent tries to make something on the outside, you can kill this completely. If your opponent plays like this, I believe this is not completely alive, but I also don't know all my 3/3, so don't judge me on this.
Yeah, no worries. But even if it is, black gets on the
oh
other.
Yeah, I mean, even if, say for example, this is alive,
yeah,
white adds a move, you're getting outside thickness. So the cost of adding
no potential for points. So
absolutely. All right, so we allow our opponent to you allow our opponent to make this really thick shape. I think here we just need to fix our shape this way. So that way, if white adds a move, say for example here, it's gote. We don't need to respond. We can jump out, and if they try to target the one stone, it's not our problem.
it's not a big deal,
yeah. And like this, what you're doing is if our opponent tries to play here or here, you can still just tanuki. But when we add a stone, we're losing liberties. Yeah, we're losing our liberties on the outside. We're also giving white the ability to play the hane. And if you'll notice, that's the hane of the head of the hane at the head of two stones.
Yeah.
Which is very thick shape for white, especially since we have to respond. All right, so we came out in the center. White comes out. I'd argue white could probably just continue this fight in the center. So for example, if we come out like this, then later white can play this move. And if black just connects, black is losing a lot of territory here. White's going to be able to live with something like 5. And if black tries to resist by playing something like this, they'll just be cut. Okay, so we get into a bunch of more fighting in the center. Unfortunately, white played this one to encourage black to fix the weakness, but the 3/3 is still there. We jumped, white fixes, black jumps in the center, white needs to come out. I'd jump as white or attach and then come out. Black's way of attacking is perfectly fine. This is a great opportunity to know when and where to double attack. So you notice that this group here on the left, or the right, sorry, doesn't have eyes, and this group here also doesn't have eyes. And so white played a questionable move here, and black should be aiming to play this move directly. And what this does is you're separating and leaving weakness for white to fix one of the groups. That way you can come back and attack this group. For example, if you play here and the answer, well, now white's group only has one direction to run, and that's this direction. If, for say, your opponent plays here and you play this one and they jump, or they fix the weakness somehow, then you'll be able to come back and cut the group somehow. Let me think. I think you can get away with this since white doesn't have any obvious ladders. Not to mention, say for example, white tries to fight this out and you're not able to save the stone somehow, you have a clean capture on the 2 stones. So white needs to respond here somehow. And I think N13 is probably the best double attack that white can get here. There's also, white can play here, right? And then you can come back and attack this group. Black has to make the sacrifice of, living painfully in the top right, but black's going to be able to get a nasty attack on the center group. And so black played down here. White should definitely respond here and then just either here or connect. I think one of these are better. It's a little strange to play this one just because now black's going to be able to play these later. And you're slowly losing the direction to run this down. So that N13 is still a very powerful move for black. I think this is the wrong direction. Black is trying to make points in an area that's very small. So white doesn't actually have to add a move here. And if you'll remember, I was talking about how this group in the center is potential danger. We can just play here. Our opponent can add maybe 6 points to the left side compared to what you can gain from attacking black's corner group here. I think I'm on the hour, so
Yeah.
if you guys have any quick questions about your games, I can answer them. Otherwise, I should hand the hour over.
Yeah, I think we are good. I'm not sure it's variants here yet, but thank you. Yeah, these were good.